Welcome to the Black Pantheon, where I sit down with creators, innovators, and entrepreneurs and listen to their stories through a cultural lens. I'm Derrick Shaffer, a content creator and musician, creating captivating pieces of content that push intentionality and going beyond the norm. This video series is meant to inspire, push new ideas, and dive into the minds of great people. Hey everybody, welcome to the last episode of the Black Pantheon, and I'm here with my dad. So, Dad, just for anybody who doesn't know who you are, just tell us who you are and what you do.
My name is Derrick Shaffer. As Abram had stated, I am Abram's dad, and what I do is, as an occupation, I am a fraud manager, and I've come through several other positions until I reached my current position as a fraud manager. I've been in technology, several technical positions throughout my career. Prior to all the technology, I was one of those kids that was infatuated with computers, that were infatuated with technical things to challenge a person, and then also things that would make a person inquisitive, and also to allow someone to question how do things work. And so I was one of those kids that tinkered, that wanted to know what was behind the scenes. And so started early, one of those guys taking computers apart, trying to understand the memory, the components, and all of those things. And realized that there was a knack or something in particular that caught my interest, and so I kind of started diving myself into that particular lane. And then I started running into computer programming and also data, and just realizing there was something special about this particular occupation, that realized that I could do and can do it well, and realized it took me and the abilities that I thought I have with my uniqueness, and then also too sometimes indulging myself alone into certain things, realize that if I stay focused, I could accomplish some of those things. And so early on, started realizing that the work ethic and other things that have been taught, from parents with upbringing, and also with the family origin coming from the South, realizing there were certain things that was invested and also instituted in us, that if we put our minds to it and effort and God's ability, we would be able to accomplish much. And so with that being said, was able to step up to several challenges, realizing that there were not many that looked like me in this particular occupation, this path. And so I was able to devote myself and also stay focused, and realized if I was able to put my energy towards these things, that there would be greater things in store, and also things beyond my wildest expectations that I would eventually be able to experience. And so with that being said, I thought years ago that when you reach a certain plateau, or when you reach a certain set of goals, you would be able to relax, you would be able to kind of sit back and enjoy the fruits of your labors. But I realized as time has continued on, that the things that took me to get to where I am, realized that you never can stop. You can never stop the attention, the energy, the devotion, the dedication, what it took there. You have to continue it uh, ongoing because you have to prove yourself. Seems like you have to prove yourself every single day. And so those are the things that I want to make sure others around me, the onlookers, will realize that about me, and that will encourage others and inspire others to not just do their average or their minimal, but they do their best.
So I'm interested in, we can hit on a couple points. Your background. You said, when you were a kid, you would tinker and do all these other things. Um, did that, did you notice that starting at an early age? Was that once you hit high school, or was that once you saw that, you know, you could kind of mix that with tech and go into your career?
Well, it started with tinkering because my parents tinkered. My dad had tools. My mom, she was a person that would sew, that would upholster, that would do all these things with her hand. And so she was um, very creative. And so, dad being shape tree mechanic, we grew up where you did not uh, buy and spend money, and you took the time and you did a lot of things yourself. And so that was the kind of the foundation that gave the confidence, realizing that if my parents were able to accomplish much without any type of education, and to see them how they would not be so quick to give up, that if they didn't have a tool, they would get the right tool. And so that taught me a lot, realizing that you had to invest in your tool set, because a lot of times the tool is what makes the difference. And so they realized if they were able to accomplish a certain task that they had challenges before, it kind of built up their confidence to realize that if they could do this thing over here, that they can do anything else that would probably challenge them or face them in the future.
So, speaking on this, like my grandparents were very resourceful, very smart, and I think one thing I'm interested about you is I would call it like your come up story. So, um, working at a grocery store up to the bank, and now where you are now, I'm interested in how. I know that's like a very long process, but even if we get started, the college years, or even when you started working at the bank, like how was that process of going from the bank to Sprint?
Well, it started even before the bank days. It started at the fast food, and it even started before fast food, because we were the kids that used to go around cutting the lawn. And so, and even before we started cutting the lawn for other people, we had to do our own. So we had to get taught to take care of our own house, our own yard, our own home before we would go out to others. Because my dad wanted to make sure that we were meticulous and very astute at what we were doing, probably prior to going out and trying to do somebody else's. Because when we went out, well, we were getting paid a salary. We were getting paid funds and revenue for doing the work. And so we would want to make sure that we gave it our best, even though sometimes my dad would have an agreement with some of the homeowners that we would do all this work for $2. And so and two, we would be a little upset at times about the money that we would end up getting in return for our labor. But he was trying to teach us what it meant to do a good job no matter what you were given in return. And so that kind of set us up for the success and the mindset of going from now cutting grass to the fast food industry of waiting on customers, working the hours, even if that meant working sometimes by yourself. You did not complain. You gave it your all, and it gave you your best because you were not doing it for yourself, but you were doing it for the customer. And so each step and each process that I was taking was leading me up to my future. I had no idea that one day I would be working in telecom. But as I went from the fast food, then end up going to the banking industry, realizing that now the banking industry gave me a whole different perspective of things. It uh, took me to a whole nother level of responsibility, which meant, now I'm dealing with people's finance, I'm dealing with people's monies, transactions, check, banking instruments. So I was able to learn uh, that particular industry, and that's where I had an opportunity to become uh, involved with computer operations, and doing things, later in the evening, um, going to the different branches, going to the Federal Reserve Bank, and having all of these responsibilities at such a young age. And I think it had a lot to do with the upbringing and how I was being taught at a young age to handle responsibility beyond my years. And so after going through the banking industry and during all these years, college was very key and vital, I believe, in the well-roundedness and giving me the background and actually opening doors that I could advance a little further and in my career and my goals. And so I did have an opportunity to get involved from the banking industry to telecom, and so started as a long distance operator, and so that was my foot in the door in the telecom, and so did not know leaving from a computer operator to a long distance operator what that really meant, and if there was really opportunities and if there was really growth for me. um, I think I went from one industry to the other, anticipation that if I was given the opportunity and if I could learn and if I would put my head down and put my hands to work, that I would eventually be able to accomplish greater goals that I had set before me. And so, with all the hard work, I was able to do some traveling. I was able to work with international systems, uh, um, doing billing, um, from computer programming from several different languages, um, just things that I never thought I would do. But I was the type of person that if nobody wanted to, I would. And so that was a character and a forte and a characteristic that followed me throughout my career, is that I was always interested in learning something new. If I did not know it, I am willing to learn. And so that's always been um, one thing that I'm always looking for in a career. I'm not looking for a job. A job is a dime or a dozen. I'm looking for a career. I am career minded. I'm always looking to take steps that's going to broaden my skill set, my knowledge base, my horizon. But but in the midst of all of that, one of the other core things that's very key and vital to uh, the upbringing and also uh, the operations of myself and my family is that God has to be in the center of everything. And so if you keep God first in the forefront of everything, that God will allow you to really to see great benefits and things beyond your own ability and your own means.
So I'm interested in. So I remember like being young and seeing at the old house where we used to live, like all these large computer books. And this is before, um, like all the internet stuff that we have to help you with coding. So like Khan Academy and YouTube videos. So how how did you do that? Because I don't even know how to frame that question. Were you reading these books in order to study and learn how to code, or like what were all these larger books for that I remember?
Yeah, back in the day before you had the internet and able to do Google searches and you had all these YouTube videos, um, you used to go to the bookstore, and if you wanted to learn something, you would have to go and get a big textbook that was maybe 400 or 500 pages, and that's kind of how you learn some things about programming. And so early on, some of my early assignments when I started programming, that I did not know certain things. However, I had systems that I had to support, and some of them maybe have been 4 or 5 different languages. Well, if you don't know something, the only way to learn it is to get a book. And so I realized that, if there's other things that I was able to accomplish via a book, well, I can apply that same type of approach and that knowledge to programming.
So what I want to hit on this. And I talk about it a lot with like even my colleagues or just clients that I have, but the importance of studying. I feel like um, it's easy, just to get the basic knowledge, but it only gets you so far. But actually studying will help you apply it to other aspects in your life. But what is the importance of study, even in computer science, but even outside of computer computer science and everything like that? How has that affected your life?
Studying, you have to have a period of time where you have to get away from everyone. You have to devote that time and that attention to not only studying, but you could study it, but then you also have to take time to apply what it is that you've studied about. Because, so that way it really takes residence with you. And so you have to have a habit of studying. And then you also have to have a good thing about studying, you have to have discipline. Because if you set aside a certain amount of time to say that's your study time, you can't let nothing interfere and get in the way of you studying. Because if you realize that studying is what gets you to success, you can't let anything or anybody stop that from happening.
So did you, when in that moment in time, like when you were studying, I know you probably were in your mid 20s, early 20s. Uh, did you ever have like the fear of missing out? Like in terms of I'm studying, I know where I want to get, but I'm also young and I want to experience life. Did you ever feel like that?
Yes, but there were times that um, you felt like you missed out on maybe some things, but you have to make sure you do things in moderation, right? So even though I had periods of study, periods of working hard, there was also periods that I did have that I would enjoy life, because life is more than just work, 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 work. There has to be period times that you enjoy your family, you enjoy uh, scenery, you enjoy your movies, your restaurant. So there's more to life than work. Also realize that these things that you sacrifice, maybe for a short period of time, is going to allow you many years and longevity of gain. And so your disciplines, and think of it as building the foundation. When you're young, you build that solid foundation, so that way later in life, when you're uh, building upon those things, that your foundation is solid and it has been built, and it has been taking time to ensure that that growth is not going to crumble in the latter years.
So speaking of the foundation, and then also hitting on the fear of missing out. Like, where I know you were building this and like building these skills. Probably was it like a little bit before the boom when everybody started going into tech, or was it during that time? Like,
Um, I think it was even before the tech boom.
So like, okay, so knowing that it's before the tech boom, um, were you saying this out loud? Like, I know you were actively working towards and studying towards where you wanted to be, but did other people kind of like not get it to where like, why are you doing that? It's not even relevant. It's not, So were you like betting on yourself and knowing like this is gonna boom, just wait because this is gonna be an industry where it's gonna be everywhere.
No, you had no clue. You had no clue. I'll say me personally. I had no clue what I was going to become, but I knew I was going to become something bigger than my present. Did I know it was going to be tech? Did I know it was going to be that? No, I didn't. But what I did do was to focus, study, dedicate myself, and get prepared. So it was that foundation that was being built. No matter what it was that God was going to allow me to experience, I still had to make sure I had a solid foundation.
Okay, so I like that. So going to the foundation part, knowing how you raised my sister and I think the foundation was shown in many ways, like definitely more than one. My to give you all context, my father is still very meticulous and very detail oriented, and I remember as children, even just cleaning on Saturdays. Like there was no you're not going out with friends until you do your chores. And my dad was, when we come and check everything, you miss something on the floor, just do it all over again. So how has have you seen yourself continue to grow in that even to the age you are now of being meticulous? I know Papa was the same way. Um, has that something? I don't know. Good. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Uh, you would say yes and no, right? So as you get older, you cannot devote all that time and that energy like you would when you were younger, but that is still a concern, and it's not um, being nitpicking, but it's the fact of giving your best, and that's what I was trying to get you all to understand and embrace. If you're going to do something, do it at your best. And if a person's going to give you their best, don't shortchange them and give them 50% or 60%. No, if you're going to do it, do it your best the first time, so that way you don't have to go back and do it another time. This is one thing that I've learned in some of my positions that I had career wise. I don't get a second chance. I get one chance only. And that one chance has to be successful. And those things do carry on into other aspects of your life. It's not being perfectionist, and it's not being overbearing, but what it is just being the very best that you can.
I think that's the one thing that I'm glad that was instilled in me. I didn't understand it at a young age, but as I was like developing my craft in college, um, I think also that's one thing. I was by myself in college. All my friends had left, so it left me to determine like what I actually wanted to do. I know I didn't want to party. I didn't couldn't drink, couldn't smoke. So like, only thing I'm gonna do is just work on and build the foundation to where I am now. But I think in terms of that, like one thing I appreciate is the attention to detail. But also another thing I want to hit on is you still say this today, character building moments, and I think that's something that um, I've learned to appreciate recently, in terms of not looking at situations with a pessimistic view, but like analyzing the situation and even analyzing my response after the situation happened, and realize those are character building moments to help me later in life. But like, because you always say it when we were younger, you still say it now. So if you could explain what that means.
character building moments are always moments that would challenge you. Um, think of it as a muscle. If you never have no resistance, if you never have no contraction, uh, that muscle will never grow and it never will get stronger. Character building moments are situations that cause you to grow, that get you out of your comfort zone, that causes you to go beyond what you think you can do. Uh, because again, it takes those type of moments to shape and mold you into true leadership. And so if you're going to go somewhere that you don't know you're going to be in your future, you're going to get challenged, you're going to grow, you're going to get strengthened, because sometimes you're going to have to be able to stand all by yourself when you realize that's the right decision to make.
I think that's like that's something I think a lot of people now are growing in. It's like now with the age of social media and everyone kind of watching your every move, it's difficult to stand on your own 2 feet and be firm, especially when things are right. Um, but in terms of you being a black man in these positions, and I already know there's such some situations where you had to stand by yourself in those situations. Um, did you ever? I don't know. Have you ever had those situations where like I'm the only black person, all these other white people or other people that aren't black are on this situation? Should I go with them in order to save myself because I'm black? Is that
You always have situations where you have people of color, people of non-color, right? But at the end of the day, you have yourself and your integrity. And so when you go to make decisions, you're making it, a lot of times you're not looking at the colors of people's skin. You're looking behind the scenes and saying, what should I do that's best for either the company, what's best for the decisions I make? Because once you make those decisions beyond color, there are repercussions. Now you have to deal with uh, the result from your decision. And that's where it becomes you have to have a solid uh, foundation and also a backbone as a leader to make some of those hard decisions and not second guess yourself. And then one of the other things, you don't make decisions as a leader for the popular vote. You make it what's best. And so a lot of times this social media thing, it becomes very dangerous if you're a follower. And so you will follow anything and everything. But as a leader, you see those ones that out there that are posting things that are true, that are posting things that's building people up, that's encouraging people, that's also causing people maybe to get that next level of confidence to try things that they normally would not try themselves.
so? How do you know if because I feel like now in the culture that we're in, the leader is the one that always talks the loudest rather than makes the right decisions. But how do you know if you're actually a leader versus actually a follower? Like how?
A lot of times, your leaders are not the ones that are most verbose and the most vocal, the most talkative. Back in my day, those that were leaders, those that had wisdom, a lot of times they didn't say much. But when they spoke, they had substance and you listened.
No, I'm glad you hit on wisdom because I think sometimes intelligence clouds wisdom. I think wisdom is long also with discernment. So how one how did you build your wisdom up to where you can use it in your job, in your career, but also in your life? And and then how can others actually develop wisdom rather than just relying on their intelligence?
Wisdom was something years ago as a young kid. I remember reading about Solomon and in the Bible, and he could have asked for all things, and the one thing he asked for was wisdom. I didn't know what that was, but I realized if you had wisdom early on, other things will come. Realized my dad didn't have education, but he had wisdom. And so he had wisdom to take the simple things and to make much. He took seeds, and I'll never forget this. I had education, and my dad came and he said, I'm going to give you a tiller to till up your ground, and you're going to get seeds, and you're going to plant, and you're going to grow. Well, I didn't want no parts of it because I had grew up with gardens and all this other stuff. And I said, when I got older, I was never going to do all this stuff that I did growing up. And so that particular year, he gave me a tiller. He broke my ground up. And then I never forget because I went to the local hardware store and got seeds. And that particular period of time, seeds, they were on sale, 10 for $1. I'll never forget it. And so I got these 10 packs of seeds. They were 10 cents a piece. And so as I went, and I was kind of a little frustrated that I was growing all of this stuff and taking the time, and I was like, it was easier for me to take my intelligence and go to the store and buy it. But he was teaching me about wisdom. And so that particular year, end up taking those 10 packs of seeds and growing them into some fertile ground because he had taught me to get the manure and all this other stuff and making my soil real rich. In that particular year, those 10 packs of seeds created so much food that I was trying to give green beans, I was trying to give tomatoes away, I was trying to give lettuce, I was trying to give onions, I was trying to give away all of these things that came that was produced from these 10 packs of seeds that I thought really wasn't much. But the wisdom my dad had, it created so much food and so much abundance that now the extra food that I gave away to my neighbors, the extra food that I did end up growing, that meant I did not have to go to the grocery store and buy. So that money became saving. And so that wisdom, realized that wisdom was not book sense. Wisdom was God given. It got something that my dad had that he passed on. And so I valued that wisdom because that wisdom will go a lot further when your book sense will run out. Because your book sense will be learned. It will only take you so far. But wisdom will carry you throughout your life.
I feel like, as much as I appreciate, like my college education, going to college, I think I've seen more in in terms of using wisdom and strategically mapping where I want to go in terms of long term. So knowing, even including the integrity part of who I work with, of what projects I take on. And I think with wisdom and integrity, one thing you've always talked about is your reputation. Sometimes I think about reputation too much, but also I know that your name is like, I think your name is one of the best things you can have. In terms of, if your name is clean, you go to the people and you're like, Abram's a hard worker. Abram does this and does that. But what, has your reputation opened doors for you that you didn't even know the people, or was it like a mixture of your reputation and your hard work? Like what, have you ever been in those types of situations?
Yes, your reputation and your name will precede you. There were periods of times that I lost jobs, layoffs or whatever. And during those periods of time, someone heard my situation and someone heard my name. And then with hearing the name, I was never in any of the conversations. And because of the reputation that I had, because of the name that was associated with that reputation, it opened doors, it opened avenues that I didn't even know were even available to me, because someone would say, that person that you just told me, this is what I know of them. And because I know of these characteristics and these traits, you need to bring him on, because if you bring him on, these are going to be the results of not only what you will experience, but what your team will experience. A name is greater than itself and is greater than you. If you have a great name, a great characteristic, work ethic, personality, you now become an influencer. You now have the ability to influence others positively, and if your reputation is bad, negatively. But if you have a good reputation and a good name, you now will enhance the other people that you come in contact with.
I'm glad you brought up influencers. It's like, I don't know if you know, but now I guess you know what influencers are. Like in terms of social media, like there are people who have large numbers. So if I have 1 million followers, I'm basically an influencer because all these people are watching me and they're following me, and kind of whatever I say, they're gonna listen to. So I like that in terms of using, if your name is good, using your name to do good. If your name is bad, sometimes I believe that you need to kind of look at yourself and not be distracted by everything else to see how can I build my name back up to to be in good graces with everyone else. And I guess with that, there are people who have bad reputations. Can you actually build that up, or is it like a one and done kind of thing?
No, we all uh, make mistakes, and I feel like even in your mistakes, you will learn from it. And I believe you don't discount a person or discard a person because some of their mistakes. We all have made mistakes, but we learn and we grow from our mistakes. I believe also, being an influencer, there's also accountability. This is one of the things I think, what I see lacking in a lot of the social arenas is that some of the stuff out there, no one is taking a lot of self inventory and accountability for what they put out there, and then realizing the responsibility. Um, the responsibility of what you do today may impact your tomorrow. Because once you put things out there, you cannot easily grab it. And I've realized this with the society, the digital society that we live in now. It takes a matter of seconds to post something, but it also takes those same seconds for it to uh, be accessed and for it to be routed worldwide. And once you put that digital footprint out there, it cannot easily be revoked or reversed. And so that allows you to hopefully use wisdom to say, hey, what is going to be the repercussions before I post, before I hit enter, before I put whatever out there? And then it becomes very critical and vital that you don't do something that's going to harm or hurt your future. Because as employers and also other companies, a lot of times before they go to hire you, they will go and do those digital forensics and research on you to see what kind of character, what kind of person are you, because whatever you put out there, you're not just going to represent yourself. If I bring you on board, that means now you're representing my company, my product, whatever it is that I'm attached to.
I know, like I've had the same thing with even more recently with potential clients. Like I've heard your name somewhere, and I heard you're a good guy. Let's hop on a call and talk. But like knowing and hitting on what you said earlier, like your name is in rooms that you don't know about, and I think that's why keeping your character clean, keeping your name clean, not being in places you're not supposed to be at, but also making sure that the work you put out is good as well. Because I feel like you can have a good personality, you can have a clean character, but if you don't have a work ethic in order to maintain that, like I'm not bringing you on to have a social party. I'm here at the end of the day to do a job and get results. And the last thing I want to hit on, in terms of the way that you raised Cassia and I think Cassia and I have picked off different aspects of you and my mother raising us. So I know one of the stories that I remember is when we were out in the yard and we were mowing. This is my first time mowing the lawn, and we have like a large hill going up, and the mower died at the top of the hill near the highway, and I was yelling for my dad. My dad looked at me, and at that time, like I wasn't strong enough to pull the like little pulley thing in order to start the engine again. And like I don't know if it was strategic, but he like let me. He basically he went back inside, and I had to figure out until I pulled it, and then I had to come back and finish the yard. But is there anything that you would, if you could go back, is there anything that you would change about how you raised Cassia and I, or the experiences that I wouldn't say you put us through, but just those character building moments, because we had a lot of them as children, as teenagers. Would you change anything about that?
No. And I think that one instance you were talking about is that you were wanting restarting the lawnmower to be easy. And so you pulled on it once, you pulled on it twice, you pulled on it 3 times, and you expected me to come to your rescue and do it for you. And so I turned my back and went inside, and the comment I made to myself was, if he didn't give up, he would get mad enough that he would get it started. And so you kept at it. You said some words. I know you said some words. And you kept at it. You kept pulling, And then I heard a yipe after the engine started. And it was celebration, because you realized at that point you didn't need me to start that engine, and that you were able to succeed in something that you thought you couldn't do. And then after you started it, you finished cutting the yard. So that was satisfaction in itself, because you had a task at hand that it stopped, but you knew your assignment wasn't finished. And so those are character building moments. It's like it went beyond lawnmower. It went beyond cutting grass. And so these were things that I'm trying to get you all to understand at an early age, because if you get it at an early age, you're going to end up facing things similar to that. It's not going to be exactly, but you're going to face things that are going to be challenges, and that if I didn't allow you to give up then, you won't give up now.
I've learned, as like being on my own, and I'm seeing more of your characteristics in me that I never thought I would accept. But like I'm learning more. It's more than getting up on Saturdays. There was more to us getting up on Saturdays and vacuuming and sweeping and mopping and doing that repetitively, checking grades throughout the week. It was more than that. Even the times when we would get mad, we would want to hurry up and hang with friends, and you were very particular about how certain things were done. I'm learning that those same things you were doing, I'm applying it into my life in terms of being attentive to detail. Like if it's not done right, we're not going to do it. We give everything 100%. So I appreciate that in terms of, because it's helped me to get where I am, even though sometimes like I do it too much. But yeah, is there any last words you want to say before we wrap up this episode?
I just think the classes that you all attended of mom and dad, you guys passed all of them. You aced the exams. You have graduated, and so it's a blessing being able to see you on your own, because that meant that you had learned the lessons that were being taught, and now you're able to apply it to your life, and you're able to be successful in your own right. And so it's good when you're in these situations and that you're able to apply the wisdom and make the right decisions. And so I always say, the character building moments have shaped and molded you, so that way you can become even greater than where you are today, because there's greater future in store for you. And so one last thing is that many times as a leader, you're going to be taking places where everybody else is not. And so the things that you're doing today is helping to direct you down those paths where once you look around, you'll realize this is the reason why I had to go through certain things, because where I was heading, everybody can't go. Everybody is not meant to be where you're going to go in your future. So be encouraged. Keep your name clean. Be true to self. Don't compromise, and don't settle. Don't settle. And I taught you guys that. Don't settle for anything less than best.
Yep. Dang, I appreciate that. I don't know. I think the last that I know we're supposed to end the episode. This is the last thing I want to hit on. You mentioned that not everybody's supposed to be where you're going, and I think that's something I've dealt with recently. I've kind of dealt with loneliness in terms of the people that I was like building with when I was, like working hard. My friends were there, and they're not there anymore. Um, how how do you deal with that? Like, yeah,
How do you deal with the so-called loneliness?
even the loneliness, or just like as you, I wouldn't even say regret, but there's sometimes when the higher that I go, the more people that I'm meeting that I've always wanted to meet, and my friends are kind of slowly leaving as the higher that I go, and it's like, should I have even worked for where I'm going, because like I don't have the people that I grew up with, or I don't have the people that I was like tight with anymore.
Well, again, as you grow and mature, you're not going to have those same people and those same friends, um, because everybody don't understand. It's not meant to understand your assignment. Each assignment is personal. Purpose is personal. I don't know what God has in store, but I believe this, that God will bring people in your life for a season, and then he will remove them when their purpose has been fulfilled. He will bring new people in your life to fulfill purpose, to help push you and promote you into your purpose. I don't know. I have people coming and going in my life. Do I get lonely? Do I get sometimes feel like by myself? No, that's where faith really kicks in, is that I'm not by myself. I can be content with people or without people. But what it is understanding the time that God has given you. We all have a set amount of time. He gives us time to do what we will with it. Are you using your time effectively and efficiently to help to fulfill your purpose? There's certain things that you have that you want to accomplish. A lot of times I don't need a lot of people around me because some people will get me distracted and cause me not to be further along where I need to be.
All right. Okay. That was the last note. On that, I appreciate you all for tuning into the last episode of season 1 of the Black Pantheon, and for that, keep on rocking.